Quick note before we start. This video is for education and entertainment, and it's built on a genuinely alarming stack of research. Alright, let's dig. Look at almost any mammal on Earth. A wolf, a horse, a chimpanzee, a mouse, a lion. What do they all have that you don't? Fur. A full coat of it, covering their bodies. Now look at yourself. You are, compared to every one of your closest relatives, naked, a strange, smooth-skinned ape. We have hair in patches, but we've lost the dense body-covering coat that every other primate wears. And this is genuinely bizarre. It's one of the most unusual things about the human body, and it demands an explanation. Why, out of all the mammals, did we strip ourselves nearly bare? The answer takes us back to the hot, open landscapes of ancient Africa, and it's tangled up with sweat, with the sun, with our ability to run, and even, strangely, with lice. First, let's be precise, because hairless isn't quite right. We're not actually hairless. We have roughly as many hair follicles as a chimpanzee does. The difference is that most of our hair is tiny, fine, and nearly invisible. So we didn't lose our follicles. We shrank our hair down to near nothing. The machinery is still there. We just turned the coat off. The leading explanation is all about heat, and it connects to our incredible endurance. Our ancestors, out on the hot African savanna, became long-distance movers. They walked and jogged for miles under a punishing sun. And there is one enormous problem with intense physical activity in the heat. Your body overheats. If you can't shed that heat fast enough, you cook your own brain and organs. Overheating is a killer. How do most furry animals cool down? Not very efficiently. A dog pants, but that only does so much. Many animals simply can't exert themselves for long in the heat. They overheat and have to stop and rest in the shade. Fur traps heat against the body. A thick coat is wonderful for cold, but it's a liability when your problem is getting rid of heat. So here's the human solution, and it's one of the most underrated superpowers in the animal kingdom. We sweat. Humans have on the order of 2 to 4 million sweat glands spread across our nearly bare skin. We can pour out sweat at a rate that few, if any, other animals can match. As that sweat evaporates off our exposed skin, it carries heat away, cooling the body with remarkable efficiency. And here's the crucial link. Sweating like that only works if you're not wearing a fur coat. If you're covered in dense fur, the sweat gets trapped in the coat, it doesn't evaporate efficiently, and the whole cooling system fails. So losing the fur and gaining all those sweat glands are two halves of the same adaptation. We became naked so that we could sweat, and we sweat so that we could stay cool. And staying cool let us hunt for hours while other animals had to give up. This is why a human being, over a long enough distance on a hot day, can literally run an antelope into exhaustion. They have fur and limited cooling, we have bare skin and a built-in evaporative cooling system running across our whole body. So that's the main event. We lost our fur to become sweating, heat-shedding, long-distance endurance machines, but it's probably not the only force at work. Evolution rarely does anything for just one reason. One idea is about parasites. A thick coat of fur is a paradise for ticks, fleas, lice, and other biting hitchhikers. Those parasites carry disease. An animal with less fur is a harder home for them. So reducing body hair had a hidden health benefit. Fewer parasites, less disease, healthier bodies. And this dovetails with another hypothesis, sexual selection. If bare skin signalled health because it advertised that you weren't crawling with parasites, then smoother-skinned individuals might have been more attractive as mates, and the preference could have been reinforced generation after generation. In that version, we're partly naked because our ancestors found nakedish skin appealing. There's also a developmental curiosity. In some ways, adult humans resemble baby apes, flatter faces, bigger heads, and fine, sparse body hair. Our smooth skin might be in part a side effect of a general evolutionary slowing down of our development, a phenomenon called neoteny. Now notice where we kept our hair, because it's a clue that the whole thing was about heat management. We kept the hair on our heads, plausibly to shield the skull and the brain from the direct overhead tropical sun. Evolution didn't just crank a single hairiness dial to zero, it sculpted a very particular pattern, bare where we needed to shed heat, covered where covering still helped. A heat management solution would leave you with a full head of hair over a nearly bare body, and that's exactly what we have. Here's the first wrinkle. When you lose your fur, you expose your bare skin to intense ultraviolet radiation, which is dangerous. It damages skin and breaks down important nutrients in the body. So how did our ancestors survive stripping off their natural sun protection? As we lost the fur, we gained something else: dark, melanin-rich skin. Melanin is a natural sunscreen. Early humans, once they'd shed their body hair, evolved darker skin to protect the newly exposed flesh from UV damage. Fur loss and dark skin are linked. You can't safely have one in the tropical sun without the other. It was a package. It was only much later, as some populations moved into weaker sunlight regions far from the equator, that lighter skin evolved in those places. But the original human condition out on the sun-blasted savanna was bare, dark skin. That was the package. Now here's my favourite wrinkle, because it's such strange and clever detective work. We can use lice to estimate when we lost our fur. Humans are host to different kinds of lice that live in different places, and body lice. The kind that live in clothing are distinct from head lice. Body lice can only exist because we wear clothes. Clothing is their entire habitat. So geneticists reasoned, if we can figure out when body lice split off as their own lineage, we get a rough estimate for when humans started wearing clothes, and that brackets the fur story, because you only need to invent clothing after you've lost your natural coat. We can interrogate a parasite to reconstruct the history of human nakedness. The lice are keeping a record. One more thing the sweating solution cost us: water and salt. An animal that cools itself by pouring out sweat is constantly losing fluid and minerals and has to replace them. A furry animal resting in the shade can go a long time between drinks. A sweating human needs to drink often. The naked, sweating body bought us endurance, but it tied us forever to the map of where the water is. Knowledge of the landscape, where the water was, when the waterholes dried, was a matter of life and death. Let's zoom out, because the fur loss ties together so much of who we are. It's bound up with walking upright, which put us out on the open savanna in the first place. It's bound up with our endurance, which let us hunt and travel in ways no other primate could. It's bound up with our skin colour, which had to darken to protect us once the fur was gone. It's even bound up with the invention of clothing, which we needed precisely because we'd given up our natural coat and then wandered into colder worlds. Pull the thread of why are humans naked, and you find yourself unravelling half the story of the human body. And there's a lovely irony at the end of it. We lost our fur to survive the heat of Africa, but that nakedness meant that when our descendants spread into cold Europe and frozen Asia, they were biologically unequipped for it, a naked tropical ape shivering in the snow. And so we did something no other animal does. We took the fur of other animals and wore it. We made clothing, we built fires, we sheltered ourselves. We compensated for our own nakedness with technology and ingenuity. In a way, losing our fur helped force us to become the resourceful, tool-dependent, world-conquering species we are. We stripped ourselves bare on the savanna, and then we outthought our way into every climate on the planet. So the next time you put on a jacket or break a sweat on a hot day, remember what those two simple things really are. The sweat is a 300,000-year-old cooling system that let your ancestors run down prey under the African sun. And the jacket is the fix for the coat we gave up to build it. You are a naked ape wearing borrowed fur, and there's an entire epic of human evolution hiding in that one strange fact. An epic of heat and sun and sweat and endurance written all over your remarkable, hairless skin. All the sources are in the description. The thermoregulation research, the link between fur loss and skin pigmentation, and yes, the lice genetics. Go read them because the details are still being worked out and it's a great story. And remember that sweating, striding, sun-darkened ancestor on the savanna is your family. So stay curious about your own strange, naked, remarkable body. And keep digging. See you in the next one. Bye. We have hair, sure, in patches, but we've lost the dense body-covering coat that every other primate wears. And this is genuinely bizarre. The answer takes us back to the hot, open landscapes of ancient Africa. Tracking and chasing prey, travelling between scattered food and water across open ground under a punishing sun. Sweating like that only works if you're not wearing a fur coat. Sweat has to evaporate off the surface of the skin to cool you. We became naked so that we could sweat, and we sweat so that we could stay cool, and staying cool is what let us move and hunt for hours. It's hard to prove sexual selection for bare skin, but it's a real part of the conversation, and it probably worked alongside the heat story. Hairlessness can be tangled up with the deep architecture of how our whole bodies grow. We kept patches of hair in specific places that likely had their own functions related to scent, signalling, or friction. A random loss of fur wouldn't leave you with a full head of hair over a nearly bare body. A heat management solution would. The original human condition, out on the sun-blasted savanna, was bare, dark skin. Fur loss and dark skin are linked. By studying the genetics of lice, researchers have tried to put a timestamp on these transitions. Our cooling superpower came chained to a permanent dependence on finding water. We stripped ourselves bare on the savanna, and then we outthought our way into every climate on the planet. You are a naked ape wearing borrowed fur, and there's an entire epic of human evolution hiding in that one strange fact. Keep digging. See you in the next one. Bye.